Hi, it's John Romita Jr. at San Diego Comic-Con. Fantastic comics in Berkeley is the best shop in the world, hands down.
In the paper today, tales of war in every way, switch your turn right over to the TV page.
Hey now. Hey now.
Don't dream it's over.
T-C.
The memories I'll never lose. 1,000 things I'll never use. I should throw them all away. But not today. In the bedroom, there's a touch of roses in the air. But when I turn to find her, she's never really there.
Dan, Klaus! I really identified with the girls in Ghost World. They made me feel like I wasn't so alone.
Yeah, whatever. Do you know anyone who works at Batman? 'Cause I really want to draw Batman. I'm awesome at utility belts. Check these out. This is where the Batman keeps his money, in case he has to take the bus.
Look, this is just an informal chat. We were wondering what you were working on in your lab.
Well, I've invented a pill that gives worms to ex-girlfriends.
Right, and what's positive about that?
Well, it's a pill that gives worms to ex-girlfriends.
Well, could it also give worms to ex-boyfriends?
This is a drug for the world to give worms to ex-girlfriends.
Well, great. Thanks for stopping by.
You just don't get it here.
Thank you, Hetty, thank you.
It's not Hetty, it's Hedley Lamar.
The hell are you worried about? This is 1874. You'll be able to sue her.
I'm married to a woman.
These are all my regulars. You strike me as a angry top. I'm clean, but you do have to glove up unless you're down for some frottage.
Frottage?
It's French for rubbing our dicks together.
Dude, you don't have to be ashamed or anything.
But I'm not a fudge packer.
Then why are you packing fudge?
I'm not. I'm a very busy actor. I'm just here trying to get away for a weekend and do some fly fishing.
Dude, you are in a fudge factory packing fudge.
Oh, that does it. I will sue you.
For what?
You can't just call somebody a fudge packer and get away with it. Hey, is that fudge packer Tom Cruise?
Andy Warhol and John Waters, in conjunction with Saliva Productions, present Jim Barrie's beloved children's classic, Peter Pan.
I think I see him.
No, that's just a cloud.
No, it's not. It's Peter.
I'm flying. Look at me way up high, suddenly here am I'm flying.
Yes, it's Divine, starring as the boy who wouldn't grow up.
I won't grow up.
I won't grow up.
I don't want to go to school.
I want to go to school.
Just to learn to be a parrot.
Just to learn to be a parrot.
And recite a silly rule.
And recite a silly rule.
Vampires have huge respect for owls. 1, they're nocturnal. 2, they're predators. And 3, they don't give a hoot where they dump their scat.
This is where he every day wearing the necklace. Look at this, and he's in this urn.
Is his ashes?
Yeah, his ashes right here and here. Yep.
So both of my grandpas are here.
What's that other thing on the necklace?
It's a Punisher emblem.
What's that about?
I like the Punisher just because he's he takes his the law into his own hands to punish the people that wronged him.
You have been most worthy prey, Mr. Sampson. But now I must adieu. Wait, dude! What about Batman? You call yourself a Batman fan? He would never kill anybody. Seriously, ask yourself, what would Batman do? I have a confession, Hank. I only like the Batman because he has the best villains.
Here's John Wayne at a party where he was honored after receiving his Best Actor Oscar for Rooster Cogburn. Oh, look, at the same party, it's America's eternal teenager, Dick Clark. Hey, Dick. So that's your secret.
Get to his hand. He's never gonna let you down. He's always looking so fly. No other dog can compare, that's why Gizmo's the best dog in the world. Living better than Snoop Dogg. That motherfucker better watch out for Gizmo. He's got style and he's got grace. Gizmo's the part that can't be replaced.
For shame, Doc. Hunting rabbits with an elephant gun.
Elephant gun?
That's right, Doc. So why don't you go shoot yourself an elephant? You do, and I'll give you such a pinch!
We're going to start our volleys. We hope you like the show. Now everything is ready. We're raring to go. We'll give you all the latest songs and then it's full of tips. We're gonna start with Hacha. Just watch this chorus steps.
Originally settled as Ocean View during the 1850s, the city's population boomed with displaced
But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Nah, that title's just a joke. We talk about comic books here.
My name is
Yule Carter, comic book retailer in Berkeley, California.
That's right. That's me right here. Boom. I own Fantastic Comics in Berkeley. Open Wednesday through Sunday, 12 to 5 p.m. Come hang out. We talk comics. We sell comics. I sell comics. I price comics. Sometimes I press them. I press some Spideys that I'm going to be bringing to the store tomorrow. Those are pretty nice looking books. And 9.0 at best. Yeah, so we talk about stuff that goes on in comics, and every once in a while we have a guest. We have a guest today, and I'm going to introduce him by playing this video for you.
Yule Carter from Fantastic Comics, not San Francisco, but in Berkeley, California. Happy Saturday, everyone. This Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, we'll be interviewing the mighty Joe Casey. Tell him why that matters, Doc.
Because Joe Casey is fucking awesome. Because he's one of the last few actual superhero comic writers in the industry. because his Wildcats version 3.0 and volume 2 is monumentally influential in the 20th century of Marvel. Yeah, because he was one of the first ones, him along with Warren Ellis, to really take a completely different take on the superhero and the nature of superheroes.
You forgot what's so funny about True Justice in the American Way, one of the greatest Superman stories in the last 25 years.
Yeah, except for the fact that I hated the Elite because they were a pastiche of the Authority, and I really liked the Authority.
Somebody in chat, let me know what's wrong in that whole video I played, and then we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
Joe Casey, how's it going?
It's going, Yule. How are you, man?
Pretty good. Let me just. All right. Oh, damn. I need a new beer now.
I was down with most of those intro clips.
Yeah.
That you played. The Telly Savalas one will haunt me to my grave, I'm sure.
You know, we were watching PBS and it had Carol Burnett on it, probably on demand, something like that. And on that episode, it had Telly Savalas come out and sing, and it was like, what?
Oh, yeah.
And I've played the longer version of that before, but we don't want to waste everybody's time. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for contacting me. I contacted you not too long ago, but this was to come on the show and talk comics. I'm so happy.
Yeah. So am I. It's great. I love coming here.
So anybody that doesn't know, I at one time wanted to write comics. But the thing is I was like, fuck this shit. Artists suck, and I can't stand trying to convey a story to them. They're the worst people in the world to get anything done. I'm just joking. But really it takes a certain skill. And I was like, I am more of a loner, I think. I'm more in a novel kind of person. And not that I did anything great with that either. But I wrote one of each. So, there you go. You can't get any of them. And if you can, I will hunt you down and kill you.
Wow. Challenge.
Well, not really. I'll just have somebody else do it.
Oh, okay.
I'm lazy. What can I say?
Sure.
That's one of my problems. But thankfully, someone that was actually able to take what my grandiose plans of what I would want to do in comics is sitting over here. Joe Casey. I could never have accomplished it. I know that right now. But you do. I agree with Doc. You do you're like one of the last people that really does superhero comics.
I didn't know we were such a dying breed, but I'm glad I'm still in there swinging.
Well, I don't know. Things have changed, and that happens. All right, I'm happy with that. But it's a different beast than it is, than it was, I guess. Maybe it was it always feels like it's the same thing. It's just different. So maybe ultimately it really isn't anything than it ever was. It's just the same beast.
Well put. Well put.
But you could tell me better than that because I don't wade with the sharks.
I don't know. I mean, I can only really speak for my generation, the guys that I came up with that I know fairly well, and it's just we grew up on this stuff, and it's in our DNA, and it's kind of like second nature to deal with these characters and these icons and tell these kind of stories. I mean, that's the only explanation I've got for
it. Who is more to blame for old timers? I guess I could say you're an old timer now. Sorry. Sorry. I mean, there's older timers, but you're an old timer now.
Yeah, I've been around.
You've been around. You've worked for companies. You've done all sorts of stuff. You've done things for a while, and you still are. And that's all right, awesome. I'm again, this is a very good thing. But what is preventing people from your time or even older or the same type of talent from today that we don't know from really wanting to work for the major companies so much? I mean, what,
Well,
it seems so weird.
it's
You
not.
hear stories about people not wanting to, work for the big two.
I mean, it's not really financially feasible as a grown ass adult to write comics for a living. Not at the moment, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Your run of the mill work for hire deal is pretty anemic in the dollars department.
Right.
And that's just how it is right now. And if I had to depend on comics to pay my mortgage, I'd be shit out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the economics of it right now. So that keeps a lot of seasoned writers from sticking with it, I assume.
I always thought that too, because I see other people with videos out there, comics with Perch, talking about how people are, available, and their asking price isn't that much. So, wow, some things are really going on that if they just want to be paid what they used to be paid, or maybe a little bit more, how?
That's not happening.
I know. I mean, I understand. I mean, so my buddy was an inker, old buddy, and he broke in. And I remember the days when we were like just doing everything for free, just so that we could like get seen by anybody, right?
Yep, of course.
And the minute he made money, it was like, I can't do this for free. It's beneath me. I'm like, you're still trying out for the big guys. You got to do it,
Well,
but it's hard when you're not making money to do stuff,
I don't think there's any work that should be beneath anybody, but I mean, it's the realities of your life. If you need to make money to live, then you have to make those hard choices. And, some people can't stick it out long enough to achieve whatever they were set out to achieve because they can't afford to, live on that dream. You got to live on the real stuff. You got to make that salad.
That's right. Oh, well, speaking of making salad, anybody that wants to ask Joe a question, you can always super chat me and supposedly I'll see it. We'll get to you guys in just a moment. But first, there's a comic book giveaway that we have to do real quick. And it is for this 1 in 25 Miko. I hope I'm butchering it. Swayan cover of Tomb of Dracula. This is a 1 in 25 variant. I just have to bring up this website really quick. There it is. And I'm going to share the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it twice just in case the first person's like, I don't really care. We can give it to another person. Now, you'll notice that there are some of the same names on here. I'll have you know that one person bought multiple copies of a certain Art Germ variant. And now we're going to click this bad boy. Boom. Oh, I didn't realize that the thing was in the way. Let me just do that. Whatever. What are you going to do? All right. Oh, Lou. I guess I won't need to spin again. All right, excellent. Way to go, dude. You're a big winner. In fact, I've got a video for that. It's just to prove it.
You will win a You will win a
All right, I'll put that in your saver, Lou. That could have been anybody, even a mail order person. So, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Let's go to the video that everybody's been waiting for. This is when we say hello to everybody.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know if you see. Hello, everyone. Theoretically, what I am showing you right now are pictures, but I doubt it because it looks like words to me. But Eric O'Sullivan is a channel subscriber, I would assume, and then you get those emojis that I lay out for you, like this one that I can't see. I like the gizmo emoji the best. Please give him a transcontinental boop on the nose from Boston. Please, Eric O'Sullivan, thank you very much for being here early. LK is here. Hello. Rogue Comics is commenting on the poll that I have. Who do you got Who do you got? Whose back do you got? Hall or Oates? Rogue says it's Hall. Primary Wave is, I don't even know what any of this is evil and buying up all these artists' catalogs. Oh, I see. Why is that? Who is funding them? What is their end game? Oates needs to take a step back and ask these questions. All right. Music. You play music, right?
I do, yeah.
What do you I asked you about that last time, but I didn't ask like what instrument, or are you a singer? What's the deal?
I play guitar. I've howled at the moon every once in a while. So
Yeah.
yeah.
We're gonna get an album soon, right? You said?
Possibly, yeah. We're kind of figuring out how to get it out there. It's all done. It's just not. We just don't know how to distribute it.
Have you ever heard of YouTube or anything like that?
I have, but I'm still weighing my options. There might be better options than YouTube.
I hear you. Just get a paywall and then put the stuff behind there, and hopefully nobody's a jerk. Do your own website maybe for that, but again, hopefully nobody's a jerk.
Do people still have websites anymore? I mean, I thought that was over too.
Well, I mean, everybody gets on the internet. They have something that they have a link tree. They have stuff. Don't worry about that. I got an OnlyFans page. Well, not me personally. I would never do that.
Sure.
Nobody wants to see that at all. LK says, I love Dutch number 0. Who is the redhead that you show when Dutch is remembering his time with the team? She looks familiar, but for the life of me, I can't remember who it is.
She should look familiar. All will be revealed in Dutch number 1, though.
All right, excellent. So this is a real character from the past, or a?
It is.
Okay, cool.
There are other characters that Rob Liefeld did not own that appeared in early Image comics, and we've got access to quite a few of them, and we're using them all.
All right. Jilby Pill's in the other room, and LK has a specific question, and I leave this up to you guys if you are interested in finding out what Jilby Pill thinks about the new Doctor Who episode. I could always have her on the show. She's an easy get in that regard. So, thumbs up the show. If I, 100, then we can maybe do that. Oh, and there you go. Okay, they're all talking to each other. All right, you guys are talking Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Are you a Doctor Who fan?
I've watched it over the years and seen the different Doctors and all, but I don't have a lot of room for another continuity to put in my head. So I admire it from afar.
Right. Let's see here. Oh, wait, I got to play it. Road Comics made it past the intro without getting shut down. I used some tried and trues. I should be okay. Fear Monarch. Oh no, the Wrestling Minute, about to be a wrestling half hour with CM Punk news. I actually forgot to do that, but we'll do that in just a second because I have a specific question I want to ask Joe regarding that. Tracy Irvin says, these current writers don't care about superheroes. They just want to fight the patriarchy. That's a customer of mine, I'll have you know. Let's see. Oh, wait. Oops, I meant Dutch number 0. Did you not say that? Kenneth Bird's here. Hi to everyone here. All right. Excellent. And then Ryan Hudson. Yay to Lou. All right. Excellent. Now that we've done that, I think, we should go to this segment every week at the very beginning of the show. Usually this is what we do. We talk about wrestling. Joe, do you have a favorite wrestling comic book? Put you on the spot. Oh, I think he's slowing down on us. Or it's me. I don't know. Are you there still?
I'm here.
Okay, good. I couldn't hear you. That was kind of crazy. Do you have a favorite wrestling comic book?
I've never read a wrestling comic book, I have to say. I didn't know there was any out there.
Okay. What, you never got a gig working on the Undertaker comic book? Who did that? Chaos Comics, I think, maybe?
that one just passed me by. I just wasn't up for that gig, I guess.
That's quite all right. A real big deal occurred with Randy Orton at the Survivor Series. At the very end of the show, CM Punk's music hit, and he came out, and everybody was like crazy agog. And then Monday night happened, and they had a perfect show. And now this could get me in trouble, but we're gonna risk it because that's how we're doing it today. This happened.
Well, guess what, Rhea? Daddy's back.
Yeah, that's right. Daddy's back. Randy Orton had a really good line, and it was a really good show. CM Punk came out, said something, and I got to say, Tony Khan really dropped the ball when he and supposedly now the Young Bucks are going to go on a hiatus. He totally went in this direction, and everything looks way better over here now. And that is your Wrestling Minute.
Wow.
But yeah, that was some hardcore stuff. Do you know any wrestlers? Do you know who CM Punk is? He worked in comics at one time. Are you familiar with CM Punk?
I am. He seems like the real deal, in terms of his love of comics.
Oh, he totally does. He's like an Ed Brubaker fan, so he's like, I'm cool.
Well, that regardless of that, I still think he's all right.
All right, excellent. That was the Wrestling Minute. Do you know any wrestlers? Do you know who Tony Khan is? Do you know AEW? Have you seen any of their stuff?
I don't think so. I used to know a guy I used to know who colored some comics back in the day. Was also into sort of like he was into wrestling league that was fairly local to California, I think. And he used to do the commentating and stuff. And I was a guest commentator on one of the matches. It was a lot of fun.
And in Southern California?
Yeah. Yeah.
So was it PWG?
I forget what it was. This was like 13 years ago.
Did the dude have a mask on when he was commentating?
Yes, he did.
So was his name Excalibur his character?
That sounds familiar. That sounds really familiar.
All right, awesome. That's cool. I've been to a few PWG matches back in the day. Those were fun.
They'd put them out on DVDs afterwards, wouldn't they? They'd film things. Yeah, so I'm on one of those.
No way. I'm on a couple of those also.
Oh, really? Small world.
Guess what I'm wearing? Yeah, it was pretty cool. There was there were some good matches. Jill and I, we went with our buddy Jeff to one. Had a great week. We did the whole Disneyland bit. Just a great time. And then we saw the most dangerous, if a fire broke out, there would have been everybody dead.
Yeah.
We were so overstuffed, and it was just fucking crazy. And then Jill gave pot cookies to El Generico, and I can't remember what's. Come on, Jill, tell me in the chat. Paul London, thank you.
I can't believe you nailed the same, outfit, because I hadn't remembered the Excalibur moniker in 13 years. I remember the mask and everything, but I'd forgotten that's what he called himself.
Well, he's over in AEW announcing now, along with the young. Yeah, he's over there. He's a big comic fan. You're right. He could tell the match, and he could compare it to something that was like going on in comic books, and it's like, it's just pretty cool. Fun stuff.
Well, he colored Officer Down, the comic.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Officer Down's Future Time. Really, I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to check my book and go in and take a look at that now.
Yeah. Small world. It's a small world after all.
It is. All right. Going over to let's see. Fear Monarch says the banger opening. That's right. Joe Corallo's here. Hello. I watched so much Three Stooges with my dad growing up. Joe and Joe were on Perch's channel talking about Keith Giffen, R.I.P.
Yeah.
That's right.
Very sad, very sad, but very, very celebratory.
That's right. LK is a YouTube member. Yeah, all right. Bucks are rolling in now. Jill's into the deep Hall and Oates analysis. Excellent. Let's see. How do I say that? Ram Dawn Chanel. Ram Dawn Chanel. Meanie pants. Doctor Who. More like Dr. Ho. All right, that's enough of that. That's a super chat next time, or else I'm not. What do I care? Joe, all right, you guys talking to each other. Excellent. All right, okay. AEW is a bit screwed. MJF has a torn labrum. Oh man. The Bucks are on hiatus, and today Tony came out and put Danielson under the bus as the one who led the committee to fire Punk. Wow. Tony. He's a rat fink motherfucker, Tony Schiavone. I remember reading all the books about WCW and the WWF WCW wars in the 90s. And Tony Schiavone, he's like, I got some information, and he doesn't let anybody know because it's so secretive and important. And rather than, promoting and helping and, getting something good, he's just like, I'm going to just take this for myself. He's like freaking Jim Shooter on Secret Wars. You know what I mean? Like that, Excalibur. Commander Cody, Yule and Joe, baby, let's go. That's right, let's go. Cerise Bennett's here. I'm here to represent the old school Philly wrestling EC dub. That's right. And don't forget all the suicides from head trauma and CTE and all the ruined lives and drug addicts that came from that. But McFoley's God. ECW that much. I really shouldn't say that. Oh, no. Tony Khan, not Schiavone. Whoops. Well, even still. Still true. Tony Khan did that, the owner of the company. Oh, yeah. I don't know. That's bad. All right. This is a good time for me to play this very, very important video. All right, my interview with Joe Casey starts right now. That is stolen from, do you know where that's from?
I have no idea.
Stifle and Ollie. It was an MTV show.
Oh my God.
I came home high one night, and my brother, who's younger than me, but he drinks. He's like, "Hey, are you high right now?" And I said, "Yeah, I happen to be." He's all, "Well, you got to sit down and watch this show. And it's sock puppets. And it's crazy show. Interspersed with little bits of video type stuff. It's MTV.
Sure, yeah.
Who was wrong in that opening bumper? Can you tell me what was wrong in that statement about who Joe Casey is? I mean, you were fucking awesome. That's true. You did Wildcats.
I didn't write the Action Comics issue that was brought up. That was my Man of Action partner, Joe Kelly.
That's right. Dubbed the best Superman, single issue Superman comic of all time by me, Yule. Sorry, Joe.
I don't know. I'd set some of my Superman comics up against Joe Kelly's any day.
Well, if I was really going for it, there was this Shazam issue. It was an Action Comics with Shazam in it, and it had all these mushrooms, and I think Duncan Rouleau was drawing it probably.
That's right. I remember it well. Yeah.
And I was probably I had just read that and 775 and all this other stuff, and I was kind of tripping balls, on mushrooms later.
Sure.
I was like, oh my God, these books, these are all, I mean, it was all the Superman stuff because you guys were all working on it and everything. I'm like, just the way this is all working out and everything. But I knew then I wanted to write Action Comics 1000. And the only way to do that was to be like super, super, super famous, or Dan Jurgens, I guess, whatever.
Okay, here we go.
I'm joking. Come on, Dan Jurgens is great. I'm just joking. You don't have to agree with me there that he's great.
He is great. Dan is
great. So you were in Tennessee for Thanksgiving. Were you going to go see that Kiss concert by any chance?
No, I was not. I had no time to for frivolity like that. I saw Kiss in the first leg of the End of the Road tour way back in early 2019 when they played the Forum. So the show hasn't changed much in 5 years.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't have tickets for it because I guess Paul Stanley had the flu.
Oh, one of the Tennessee shows got canceled. Huh?
That's right.
Oh, bummer.
I know. And then like the next day he was like in Canada performing.
Well, they love Canada.
Did you hear anything about, this is the last of the Kiss bit, okay? Did you hear anything about that whole Rainbow Bridge situation?
No, what's that?
So I guess the Rainbow Bridge is like Niagara Falls, Canada to, America.
Oh, yeah.
And this Bentley, like SUV or something, just like took off and like caused all sorts of like, shutdown for the bridge. And Fox was out there saying, oh my God, it's like a terrorist attack. And there was like explosives and all this other stuff.
Right.
And it wasn't. It was this couple. And I guess they're like business people. So RIP big time. They didn't go to the Kiss concert because of the Paul Stanley being sick or something like that, and they went gambling instead, and then they were going back home or something. I don't know how it worked, but they got in this accident and died. So was
it their car that we see launching through the video?
That's the one. I should have got that.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that's the last of my Kiss knowledge right now for you. That's wow. Next time we'll have more.
Pretty good. That's a pretty good one. I didn't know that at all. Wow.
Yeah, crazy. All right, so we did Spin the Wheel. We did that. Let me just look at my notes really quick. I've introduced you already. You're doing Junior Baker Righteous Faker, which is a sequel of sorts, I guess, to Butcher Baker Righteous Maker, which came out back in like 2011.
Correct. That's right.
I'm looking for the banner that says this stuff, but there it is. Bam. Didn't have time for Righteous Faker. Why Righteous Faker? Because it rhymes.
Well, it does rhyme. That is one of its virtues, but it has a meta meaning in terms of the story itself.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, I feel like it feels like a pretty deep book, but a lot of the subject matter isn't. I mean, like if you take like the bits and pieces of it, it doesn't feel like it's necessarily. It can be a little nonsensical in parts, or maybe too deep. I don't know. It's one or the other.
Well, I mean, in my creator-owned work, I tend to not stick to any one specific tone if I can help it. You know, that's the benefit of doing your own stuff, is you can basically go where it takes you, and hopefully it holds together in the end. And having just put together the 5th and final issue, I'm pretty proud of it. I think it holds together. I think it ends on the note that I wanted to end it on. It answers some of the questions that it asks in the beginning. So I mean, it is comics, so it's a month by month, chapter by chapter kind of read at first. But it's a good ride, and once you get to the end of it, I think there's a lot of payoff. I mean, there was for me, and so hopefully that translates to the readers too.
Are you your number one fan?
No, but I closely observe myself more than anybody else, so I know when I hit and I know when I miss, and this one hit on a lot of levels for me.
All right. So having read the third issue, if you didn't know by some of the hints, you're kind of now towards the end of the book that this is definitely Butcher Baker. There were elements before, but if you hadn't read the book, you have no idea that there was something beforehand. I don't know who's reading this that doesn't know about Butcher Baker, right?
Right. Well, hopefully, yeah. Although, I mean, I think it stands alone. I mean, I think I present the backstory such as it is in a way that you get the inference that, Dizzy's connected to that world more than just an observer, more than just a reporter who is interested in that story. He's got a personal connection, a biological connection even.
Let me bring up a couple pictures. Did I not? Oh, I did do them. Oh, I didn't bring the rest up. Hold on one sec. So let's start off right off the bat. The artwork is really, really good. It's by Ryan Quackenbush.
Yeah.
Jokingly, I thought the Quack.
Best name in comics.
That's right. It used to be Jesse Delperding. What happened to him?
I don't know. Nobody could say his name, I guess.
Do you remember Jesse Delperding?
I do. Inker.
Yeah, Inker. Yeah. So this is the art. I'm going to kind of just try to encapsulate things about the book that I'm understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But we have this guy writes for a rag. He's a reporter, and he goes off on silly things that may or may not be true. A lot of the extraterrestrial type little things, right?
Yeah, in this world, the sort of tabloid, alien ate my mother kind of stories involve, superheroes, metahumans, whatever you want to call them. So he's chasing those types of stories. Anything that lends itself to, something of a fantastical nature is kind of his beat.
Right. Now, the clergymen are these people that are defiling churches. Are they killing people? I don't remember seeing people necessarily dead, right?
No, it's not a lot. It's not too much murder going on with the clergymen.
Right. Now, this is one of the first times where we're seeing one of the characters from Butcher Baker. What's this one's? I can't remember the name.
Well, in Butcher Baker, it was called the Absolutely.
That's right.
In Junior Baker, it's called the Inevitability.
That's right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So again, expertly illustrated, and then every once in a while we have this intermission of sorts. Is this I always envision when I see something like this, maybe what those Greek plays were like, with the chorus in the background, kind of just reiterating, or maybe giving you a little information that you didn't know.
And breaking the fourth wall a little bit, and letting you know, that we're all aware of the construct that this story is being delivered under, which is a comic book, a type of storytelling, words and pictures, whatever you want to classify it as. So it's the self-aware aspect of the comic, which I kind of like. I mean, I enjoy a little meta commentary in my comics every once in a while.
All right, I got a question for you then. This is I'm trying to make sense of what that what I'm trying to make sense of this. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Your work contains many allusions. Which writers do you think promote reading other writers? I guess in comics is what we're talking about.
What's the question?
So, do you have Robert Anton Wilson in this book? Do you have talking heads in this book? What was the other one?
Talking Heads is in the book. I know there's a reference to Talking Heads.
And you have Beatles and Descartes, Shakespeare, Hunter S. Thompson. He's Hunter S. Thompson anyway, right? In a sense.
A little bit. I mean, there's a little bit of Hunter S. Thompson.
Right.
There. Yeah, in terms of the gonzo nature of his journalism, for sure.
I got to admit, I'm not like one of those readers that always like picks out the other things.
I'm not either.
I just like sometimes I just don't get it, not necessarily what's being told to me, but just that it comes from another source. And I mean, obviously everything comes from another source, really.
Yeah.
But a lot of what is going on in Junior Baker kind of just like sings out to me like a midlife crisis type situation.
A little bit.
He longs for the clergymen to be real so that his life has meaning. He has a girlfriend at home who's pregnant. And I'll let you know that Jill was not really a fan. Like when I was expressing what this was going on in this book, she wasn't a fan of this character.
Sure.
This aspect of the story.
It's a little harsh. It's a little hard. I totally get it.
Yeah, she might not have been that nice about it, but
I like that.
Yeah,
evokes emotion, evokes a reaction. That's not bad for a comic book, I'd say.
Can I ask you about Wonder Woman 3 that came out not too long ago?
You can ask me. I haven't read it. I know about it, but you can ask me. Sure.
Okay. Well, so I don't even need to really show any pictures, but I thought it was a very well written and executed book. It's beautiful on artwork, and a lot of people were taking offense to it. And I remember things like going out and seeing Train Spotting and getting in an argument with someone about the baby on the ceiling and then the baby being dead and all that shit,
Right.
Pretty extreme, but I mean, they're telling a story and they're wanting to, get you.
Yeah.
And in the Wonder Woman comic book, a soldier is gaslighted into believing that everything that he believed was wrong, and he ultimately takes his own life. And I got to hear about PTSD and how, this is disgraceful and all sorts of things about Tom King's personal life. But what I really take offense to is how anybody that possibly could like that was simple-minded. And it really pisses me off as a reader.
I can see why. I mean, I think
fuck you.
Sure. Listen, if you put your money down for anything that you want to consume, you have the right to have your opinion about it, whether it's pro or con. And we know that there's a contingent of comic book buyers / readers that get into it it's like a hate watch, But that's okay.
How can the same people that are upset that the sexiness and the violence and the true nature of the characters aren't being adhered to from the past, and then they clutch their pearls at like, I mean, well, you know what I'm talking about, like skimpy costumes and stuff like that. How can they clutch their pearls when it's something that's like provocative in another direction? Why is it that way? Oh my God, Captain America's a Nazi, and stuff like that. Remember that one?
I do remember that one. I think every reaction that an individual has says more about themselves than about the work they're reacting to.
I mean, I understand when things are low-hanging fruit, and I think a lot of what Tom King does is low-hanging fruit. But it's not without merit. It's not without, but I mean, everybody's looking for a reason to get upset. And I think sometimes he's giving people a reason to be upset, but isn't that what we really want?
Well, I hope he's conscious of it. I don't know Tom at all, but I hope that it is a conscious choice on his part to, poke the bear a little bit and get people talking and get people upset. I mean, why not?
I feel like if he hadn't done it on social media and been so vindictive to Jay Lee, supposedly, with tweets and stuff like that or whatever.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Even still, if that wouldn't have happened, Heroes in Crisis still happens, so people are usually pretty upset about that. But in Junior Baker, you can go all over your characters with that. You can do anything you want.
That's right. It's the beauty of creating our own book, and I take full advantage of it too.
Yeah, you do. I love. All right, so in the second issue, we are introduced to like a Scientology type group, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And our boy has already taken a swig of that Universal tequila.
Yeah.
The not quite a worm in the bottle. Is that, did I miss out on what that really was, or is it just a worm?
No, it's a tiny spiral galaxy.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait. Yeah. He hasn't finished that bottle yet, right?
No, he has not.
Okay. And here's his lady friend at the. So yeah, as he's like at that place, and she's all seductively like rubbing on his thigh and everything, and then she's like, "Get him the F out of here," when he's like all passed out.
Yeah.
His lady's like getting the sex of the baby figured out and all that stuff.
Right.
This guy's life is spiraling for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's as we get into 4 and 5, it just gets more intense.
Well, I love this part. Now, this issue is very much, I feel like anybody that feels like superhero comics or comic book creators have like left them, that they don't know what we are suffering as fans from so long ago. Yeah. These are the scenes where you really understand it. And these two guys are called Nucleus. Is that what it is?
Biohazard Us.
Okay, very good. Biohazard Us. All right. And their powers are like destroying them. And all they're good for is what are they, feeding the city with power or something like that? They don't know where their stuff is going.
Yeah, they're siphoning off their excess energy, selling it to whoever, shipping it off for the highest bidder.
That's all they're good for. Because like the time of, they were gods back in the day. They were ruling the roost, and they like really they're very fanciful and nostalgic about the good old days.
Yeah, they were supervillains. They were full on supervillains, and now they're not quite what they were. Past their prime, for sure.
Past their prime. Is this a commentary on people that feel like their comic books have left them behind just a little bit?
More of
get over it.
No, more of a commentary or a conversation, an internal conversation about what do these things mean to us as we get older? What are these concepts, these characters, these dynamics mean to us as our lives get more complex and we, just get more mature and just get older and different things in our life come into play, and we have to deal with those things, whether it's family or career or whatever it is. Those of us that still have an interest in these fictions, these superhero fictions, have to oftentimes realign our engagement with them. We have to kind of reconfigure what they mean to us, because there's no way, and I think this is probably endemic of the whole readership on some level, is that they're never going to mean to us what they meant to us when we were 10 years old, because we're not 10 years old anymore. We know too much. Mm-hmm. But some readers tend to get angry or confused that they don't mean the same thing to them anymore, and they don't perceive it on a conscious level. But I think that's what's happening. People who are interested in the material, but they don't know why. And it happened to me a couple of years ago. I was looking at the things I loved as a kid, and wondering what they meant to me, if anything. And as somebody who does this stuff for a living, it had even more of a question mark, which is how do I engage in this material that I know meant so much to me well into my adulthood, and became my career basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a sort of come to Jesus moment about it, and writing this series, this Junior Baker series, helped me reconcile a lot of those issues and answer a lot of those questions, which then led me into the work on Zod and the work on Dutch and the work on other stuff that's coming up, hasn't been announced yet. It really reignited my relationship with the superhero fiction form. So I feel like I've got a kind of a new lease on the whole thing.
Well, I mean, so I think what Doc is trying to say in that opening piece was that, like, you and Warren Ellis and Joe Kelly, the men of action that worked in the comic, in the superhero comics at the time, you were doing some really, really good stuff. Grant Morrison comes back to superheroes and does some really good stuff. We have Peter Milligan. When Axel Alonso was bringing people over to Marvel, that was just like, crazy time. And it was just like the best thing ever. But we still had Vertigo and people drawing superhero comics that probably shouldn't have been, and all sorts of stuff like that. And even the mainstream stuff during the 90s, a lot of that stuff gets a lot of crap, but Christopher Priest was working on Steel with Dennis Cohen. Mm-hmm. There was still some good Valiant books, going on and things like that. There was Sam Keith was always doing something. Kurt Busiek's always around, these type of creators, when they're like lending the quality to the superhero genre, it was a really good time during that time. I feel like for whatever reason, we see the creators over at Ghost Machine. Brian Hitch off a long run at Marvel. He's like, fuck this shit. Jeff Johns, for various reasons, is like, fuck this shit. Tomasi, you're not giving me what I want? Everybody knows Tomasi got screwed. All this other stuff. But the thing is like, who cares? It's Ghost Machine. That can only get you so far. But if they're not getting compensated over in the big leagues, it really, what's the difference, right? If I want to make comic books, I'm just going to do it in the place that I want to do it.
I want to go back, though, to what
I've argued against N4.
No, well, I want to just at least give a shout out to very important comics from the 90s that I think don't get overlooked, but they don't get mentioned enough, that really influenced a lot of what guys in my generation brought to our superheroes when we wrote them. First one, Starman, James Robinson and Tony Harris. Huge book, tonally and just the vibe of that book and how seriously it took the DC universe and how its approach to the whole thing. And sort of in the same vein, but equally important, Sandman Mystery Theater by Matt Wagner and my buddy Steve Siegel and Guy Davis. Also, a superhero book, but taking it from a different perspective. Those two books are sort of, to me, for me, they were the linchpins of what I aspired to do when I finally broke in the late 90s. It was coming right off of those two series. And I don't think I was the only one that felt that way, because you see a lot of that DNA and stuff that Jeff Johns did and stuff that Devin Grayson did. A lot of the late 90s, early 2000s, and Warren Ellis even came from the ground that those two series in particular laid.
Yeah, I would suggest anything Matt Wagner, starting from like Mage and on. Is Matt Wagner. Oh man, that's there's like, Carlos Pacheco for me, George Perez, when these guys die, the Carlos Pacheco one was like a tough one for me.
Yeah.
But Matt Wagner, though, I mean, who knows what's going to happen to me,
No,
but
he's
assuming since he's older than me, you know what I mean? That's going to be like one of the days where I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. Like I read Mage like crazy,
Yeah, Matt's still alive and kicking. Let's keep him that way for a while.
Yeah, he is. He's working on a crowd-funded book. Boo. What do you think about crowd-funded comic books? Because, like, here you are. You're going to be working over at DC. You're going to buck the trend, but at the same time, you're also doing your own image stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about crowd-funded stuff? Because, like, that Dracula comic by him and Kelly Jones is really expensive.
Yeah, but I bet it's worth every penny because those guys.
It is, but I've seen Kelly Jones do vampires like crazy. Seriously.
Yeah, he's good every time. He's good every time.
I'm talking as a fan here, okay? Seriously. Like, is that really what I need from Kelly Jones? I mean, it's such a shame that DC won't come and, you could do that over there. What's wrong with Matt Wagner and,
But they did their time at DC.
I guess you're right. Yeah, you're right. Well, I hope that works for them. Nonetheless,
I think it's working like a motherfucker for them.
Well, good for them. It doesn't help me any,
Okay, from the retailer point of view, I see what you mean.
Yeah. All right, we talked about Junior Baker. This is the part of the show where we're going to go into the cone of silence for just a moment.
Hodgkins,
Yes, sir.
activate the cone of silence.
The cone of silence?
First of all, how much do you know about chaos?
What did you say, sir?
What?
Do you miss smoking and television? You're on mute. I'm sorry to tell you. Can you hit the mute? Yeah, there you go. Do you miss smoking and television?
It looks really cool. It looks really cool when they do it.
Did you ever smoke cigarettes?
Like a couple when I was a young teenager.
Oh, it's the worst goddamn thing I ever did. I gotta say that right now. Now that it was COVID, so I got like at night, but it's just God, smoking. Why did I do it? I mean, all the money that I wasted, I could have totally wasted on other stuff.
This is a nasty habit, Yule. Nasty habit.
Yeah, disgusting. But I am long done with that. I have plenty of other habits that I can't break, like buying comic books.
Right. Not so nasty.
So you said last time that you buy collections mostly. Like if you get clued in that you need to read, you don't usually buy on Wednesdays, right?
I've been buying a little bit more lately because there's stuff going on that I'm interested in getting sooner rather than later. So it's in the and since the pandemic, I've learned to I've grown more appreciative of my LCS. So I try to get there every week just to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to go to chat really quick. I just want to get caught up just a little bit. Is fuck them if they can't take a joke raw or subgenius? Yeah, either or, I think, really.
Sure.
However, you can understand why veterans who are comic readers might find that subplot about the soldier in PTSD would find that offensive being done. I totally can understand. Anybody that suffered suicide in some way? Thankfully, I never have. I'm kind of callous when it comes to some stuff. What have you written in the past where you're like, oh damn, I shouldn't have ever written that? Does that ever come up with you? I remember Dan Slott was like, I did a little too many fat jokes with Spider-Man, but Spider-Man always did fat jokes.
I don't have anything that I'm particularly embarrassed that I wrote because they smacked at the times, but I'm sure there was some things, nothing that was inappropriate, just maybe I don't know, don't age well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing too bad. Thank God.
All right, this one's long. Oh, wait, these are all things, emojis. I can't see them. Nick Wilson. Let's see. Let's just do this one. Dude, it shades droppy truth bombs. Droppy? I don't know what that means. Lane Kramer, Kurt Busiek, Astro City, and Avenger is really good. I was thinking that too. What do you think of Astro City? Were you into that one? Were you reading that while you were working at the time?
Well, that started right before I broke in, and I read it when it first started because everybody was hot on Kurt because of Marvels and Untold Tales of Spider-Man, and I remember back when they had the comic buyer's guide. There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff about the making of that series, which at the time was very interesting to me as an aspiring creator. And Kurt was really good about letting people in on how he built that book and how he went about doing it. So I was in at the beginning. It meandered for me because I couldn't keep track of it. It was like a show that you love that gets its time slot changed every other week. So, it's hard to keep track of where it was and when it was.
I'm lucky to, at my old location, have Brent Anderson, that's all pre-pandemic, as a customer from time to time.
Oh, very
and
cool.
I'm a super big fan of his. I've got Khazars or Khazar. Yeah. How do they pronounce it at Marvel? Do you know? Khazar?
I think it's Khazar.
Yeah. All right. Excellent.
Yeah. But then I've been saying Namor all my life, so I didn't know it was Namor.
Oh please. Tracy Irvin says crowdfunded books are exhausting. One book every few years. Sorry, not sorry. Well, I gotta tell you, a person Joe Casey has worked with in the past they're not even crowdfunded books anymore, so they come out when they come out. And it's called Arc Athena by Eric Canetti.
Yeah.
Who I've been on Thinking Critical with. We did like a special pre-tape show. I love that guy. He's awesome. I hope you would agree with that.
I do agree with that. I roped in Eric to do a Dutch variant cover. I think it's issue, I don't know if it's issue 2 or 3, but he knocked it out of the park. It's fantastic.
Well, I'm almost done with Arc Athena, and it's a pretty fun, for people that feel like the superhero genre isn't around. It is around, and it's there. Unfortunately, I'm now telling you to buy something that isn't in the store, but he does a really good job. Oh, that reminds me. Let me ask you a silly question.
Sure.
Oh, it's right here. I know I have it right here. Jesus Christ. Okay, here it is. Oh, here it is. I've seen artists attacking people online, suggesting that they could write a comic book and use AI art to make it happen. Saying that they should learn to draw if they want that to happen. So now let me ask you this question. This is a saucy question. How many artists in comics should learn to write?
All of them.
That's right, you artists. That jokingly, because like when I talk about like Mount Rushmores of comic book creation, unfortunately or fortunately for them, it's always the writer artist that usually that gets put up there. Frank Miller, John Byrne, nobody says like Dan Jurgens, Dan Jurgens did like 500 comic books, or whatever it was.
Yeah, he's a writer artist for sure.
Well, you know what? Yeah, he actually does art. You're right. Bad example. You know what I mean? Nobody's talking about Al Milgrom that way, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He has some okay covers. Do you think he like insinuated himself in comics? I got like blocked from somebody on Twitter at the time. I guess I'm dead naming X. I got blocked for saying that Al Milgrom, because it was like an Al Milgrom, like just a jizz fest on Twitter. And I was like, I think he insinuated himself in way too many comic books. And he's like, that's an instant block, you know?
Wow. What do you mean he insinuated himself in?
He's in every goddamn comic book. You're like, if it was a comic in the 90s, he did something in it. You know, whether he was editing it or writing it or coloring it or inking it or drawing it, or he did the cover. Some covers were really good. I mean, I'll give him that. But like for the most part, everything was just like smooshy. And I'm not really
Al Milgrom?
Yeah, Al Milgrom. Go look at his spectacular Spider-Mans.
Did he write? I didn't know he wrote.
Yeah. Oh my God, he was so deep in it. He was crazy.
Wow.
He couldn't not get his name in a comic book. It was great. Jasper Plan 9. Eric Canetti is premium quality. I will wait and I will not complain if it's late. I'll tell you what the store is waiting for. We're waiting for 2 crowdfunded books that I have deemed worthy of getting in the store. Previous ones were the Liam Sharp art book, which we still have some. The Octobriana by Jim Rugg, a person you've worked with.
Yes.
And now the 2 that we're waiting for. These are the one is the saddest one that I'm waiting for. Okay. The first one is Axe Wielder John, I think its name is. And that's by Nick Dragotta. Have you ever worked with him?
Have I worked with Nick Dragotta? Yes, I have worked with Nick Dragotta.
I think that's him who did that one, right? And it might not be him.
I don't think so.
See, I'm an asshole. I could look it up. I whoever the hell it is. I want that one. But that's not the one that's sad. This is the one that's sad. I've been waiting for the Scout one for like 5 years by Tim Truman. And it's like, I understand and I'm cool with it and everything. But damn, you're asking a lot of people that would buy Scout to hang on. You know what I mean?
Boy, Scout new material?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, thank you, Jasper. You're the man. Jasper Plan 9 says, Nick Pitara. So sorry, Dragotta.
Nick. Oh, yes, Nick Pitara. Well,
Nick Pitara is really good too. And this stuff is done, but it's not printed up and sent out. And it's prevented me from buying a bunch of Zoop stuff because
Nick Pitara, he does a variant on Dutch #1.
Oh, really? Okay, there you go.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing too. It's jaw-droppingly good.
He's a great artist. I love his stuff. He's an interesting cat.
He's a good dude. He's a really good dude. I like him a lot.
Have you ever noticed that there are a lot of drug references in your comic books?
Really?
Jasper Plan 9 says Billy Tucci and Graham Nolan are doing the best work in their career. Well, they got all the time. Billy Tucci. Look, I like Billy Tucci. He seems like a cool dude. But that guy's fronting for Diamond way too hard, and I just can't. I can't cotton to that at all. So just let you know. If you're on Diamond's side 100%, you're not on my side at all.
Noted.
I know you're in deep with what's his name, but I'm not. You know, I seen all his rings on his little fingers. I know. But come on, if Eric Stevenson can leave Diamond too, so can you. That's what I say. So Titan, so Boom, so Dynamite, get out and stop talking him up, Billy Tucci.
Yeah.
By the way, I have a bumper of him saying Fantastic Comics is great also.
Oh, sure. Of course you do.
I love Billy Tucci. I'm just joking. The worst thing I ever said, and I don't know if like Perch is like, he had me on a beef afterwards, but I was like really dogging on who's the artist of every Green Lantern you never cared about?
It's a leading question, Yule.
Not Dave Gibbons, but right around that time. Oh, E-Man. That's Joe Staton. And, I was like, oh, I've read all those Joe Statons, trust me, But then he had him on an interview, and I felt really bad.
You should. Joe Staton is a fucking legend, man.
I'm just ranking, you know what I mean? He's above Al Milgram, except Al Milgram writes. So, then I have to maybe start ranking differently on that regard. That's
All
what
right.
fans do. How did you used to do it? Who are you ranking? You're an Avengers fan, so you had it was George Perez, you had John Byrne.
Yeah.
Who was in between those? Oh, you had David Wenzel would do issues, if I'm not mistaken.
He did. He finished the Korvac saga when Perez.
So you had a few other artists to choose from, probably like Al Milgram or something like that. Maybe Sal came in for an issue or something like that.
Al Milgram did draw the Avengers for years.
Yeah, so now you're ranking as don't rank as Joe Casey writer who still has to go to shows with these guys and stuff like that. Do it, Joe Casey. I'm reading these comics, and the first one I have to pick up because this is the guy. Who is that?
Perez.
You see me burn all the way. Burn.
I see. This is the thing. I feel like from on an individual issue basis, a Shooter Perez comic beats everybody. I could pick. Yeah, I could pick out individual issues that are probably the greatest issue of the Avengers ever. But however, as a run, as a sort of as a sustained run, I have to go with Michelini Byrne. Because I mean, that's sort of Shooter Perez brought me in, but Michelini Byrne kind of they had something going on with their run, which wasn't very long, but it just worked for me and kind of works more for me now than the Shooter Perez stuff. I don't know why. I think I've been trying to figure it out, but I can't tell you why. But it just does. It works better for me now.
Now you're talking specifically Avengers when you say that, right?
Yes.
Cool. But yeah, I mean, I hear Rob Liefeld talk about it. He's like, he just jizzes all over the Perez stuff. And I mean, I've read them post when they came out, and I was reading the Byrne stuff as it was coming out. So it's a little bit different for me. And we all like, usually what we first get into and things like that. Usually,
I mean, as a writer, I would rank Michelini over Shooter. I mean, hands down.
Right.
So that's my bias there.
Let me ask you this question. The Shooter, all right, so everybody's talking about comics and sales and things are bad and all this other stuff. I personally remember Shooter as an editor, and he was like Dan Didio today, at DC. Get out of here. We're done with you. John Byrne left because of him. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of factors flying around. I mean, look, when you're trained from a young age by Mort Weisinger, what the fuck do you expect? I mean, that says it all. And the fact that Shooter did the things that he did, having been trained by Mort Weisinger, is a testament to Shooter's ability to transcend the PTSD he must have experienced having to deal with that editor for very formative years of his life.
What was he, 13 or something like that?
I think, Mort was his editor from age 13 through 18.
But I mean, this is where, comic books have the back of their comic book. They're trying to get you to sell subscriptions to magazines. Please work for us. Get this stuff out there.
Sure.
Is that when comic books really, personally for me, it was the letters pages. But when when you didn't have to send away for things in the same way, You know, things have been. You don't have the same advertising revenue that comics maybe had at one time. You know, it's just it's such a different beast. But could we ever have something like that again?
Well, back in the day, how much revenue could you get selling X-ray specs and
I have no idea. Those $1.98 soldiers and shit like that. They're in those facsimiles, you know. Those facsimiles cost more than the entirety of the catalog within the comic book.
Yeah.
Especially if it's foil. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember that ad that used this kind of Thor wannabe character that was just always sitting in the corner of the ad. Stuff like that. I mean, that's part of the flavor of those old comics, though. I mean, but I didn't take it seriously even when I was a kid reading them. I never felt compelled to, order, or get the Charles Atlas, workout guide or whatever. I just was there to read the stories.
Well, I don't know, but I imagine Grant Morrison did.
Well, he definitely took something from it, as the court records will show.
You got to work with him. That's pretty awesome. How connected were you? Did you guys go on like acid trips together and stuff like that?
No, we just did. We did a Marvel retreat, and Grant and I have been friends now for over 20 years. That's a long time.
Yeah. Who's a better friend to Grant Morrison, you or that dude in San Francisco that owns the comic store?
Oh, no contest.
Wait,
talking about James Syme?
Is that his name? I can't remember. Yeah, the guy with the toilet seats.
Yes, I drew on one of those toilet seats.
So are you closer to Grant Morrison or is he?
I don't know how close he is to Grant, so I couldn't answer that question. I don't know.
So if there's going to be a signing in the Bay Area with Grant Morrison, it's not going to be at Fantastic Comics.
No.
So I've heard. I mean, I know not to even suggest it. That's what I know.
Wow, some sort of beef between you guys?
No, not at all. It's a walk. I mean, that is where Grant Morrison is going to go sign. He's going to go sign on toilets. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
He doesn't go to Brian Hibbs or anything like that. Those days are gone. He's one and done. You know what I mean?
I guess so. Yeah. Well,
this is a great time on the show, and I would suggest we have to at least get 100 likes for him to even consider it. But Joe Casey, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Can I somehow weasel you to come on over to Fantastic Comics for a signing someday?
Sure, absolutely.
Maybe in the summer when we don't have to worry about weather, and Zod will be coming out, right?
Yep.
All right, let's
talk about Neil before Zod out in January.
So I'm in the cone of silence, and I'm not gonna screw this up. I promise. But everybody already knew I was already jazzed for this image that came out from San Diego about you doing Neil before Zod. Who's the artist again? McDade?
Yeah, Dan McDade.
It's pretty good storytelling, I gotta say. There were elements of art. I have to look at them, like some Tom Coker, maybe some which goes to Sam Keith. Also, I feel like that. Oh no, that's Ryan Quackenbush. McDade's more traditional DC type storytelling, and it's pretty solid as far as that book is concerned. I'm so happy to have been able to read it.
I'm happy you read it, and as well, Yule. No, Dan's great. We're on for 12 issues. I don't think there's going to be any fill-ins in terms of art, which is a rarity these days. So it's going to be 12 issues of me and Dan. I don't want to hype it up too much, but it's really fun to play in that sandbox again,
So you're referring to going back to Superman type stuff?
Well, DC in general.
Okay, DC even. You let me know that you had been doing some research with the Keith Giffen Legion of Superheroes for your Neil before Zod.
Yes.
Is that the Kun stuff that we see in it? That's just a little, thing, or is it more than that?
It's
Because you
more
said
than
it was
that.
later on.
Yeah, it's more than that. Yeah, issues 6 and 7 are basically Giffen tribute issues in terms of storytelling and the type of stories that we're doing in those 2 issues.
I have a customer that works or that buys comics from the store, and he always buy anything that is Legion of Superheroes related.
Yeah.
If they were a big fan of that, would those issues or maybe even the entirety of your series probably be something they want to read?
The entire series. I mean, the Legion is
That's
a
not
big.
just trying to sell your book. I'm saying
Well, you see, the Kuns are in issue 1.
There you
I
go.
mean,
That's my point. Yeah.
that Jim Shooter created the Kuns in one of his first issues that he wrote when he was 13.
This is
So,
all tying together so perfectly. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of my greatest secrets as a comic creator is I'm such a huge geek for some of this minutia. And now here's a series, an opportunity presented itself with this book where I could put all of my DC cosmic minutia knowledge into one series. So I'm going for it, man. I am going for it. We're hitting it hard.
So the first thing you're doing is a backup story in Action Comics number 1060, which you graciously, again, talking about that Cone of Silence.
Yes, you've read it.
Super awesome. Leads right into the first issue of Neil Before Zod, which comes out in January. I've already placed the orders for that. I'm super psyched for it. Fantinium, don't you worry. There's a variant cover on the way for you. And we're gonna sell the shit out of this, is what I think.
Oh, good.
Better than Superman, even. Actually, Superman's selling very well, actually.
Yeah. That whole Superman office has kind of got their shit together. So happy to be back.
Action does, but a lot of people, and this is not me, I am not in this camp at all, are so negative about Jason Aaron. And I mean, I can't even think of like a social media thing that he did that was so bad. Like, to me, the worst thing he did was not finish Southern Bastards. I understand. But, finish it. Regardless. It's kind of like Fell. Get it out. Image, suck it up. Just do it.
I've got an unfinished Image series that I still need to finish too, so I'm not going to
wait. Which one? Well, yeah, but having an unfinished one and not being allowed to finish it is different things altogether.
True. Yeah.
I mean, I'm waiting for that third C guy also. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like, how do you? Can we like just really broad based? Like, can you? What do you think of all that? I mean, it's so hard. I always felt like comic books were so very, very carny anyway, that like, if you don't expect it to be, then I think you were really fooling yourself. And it's just it's whether it's Wonder Woman or some comic book from the early days, or this and the people in the office from then, or the people in the office from now, or the people working from home. It really doesn't matter. There is a little bit of disdain for your fans. You don't have to agree to that.
I don't agree with that, actually. Disdain for the fans. I mean, it's, this is a very transactional business in the sense that we provide something, an audience pays for it.
Sure.
Once they paid for it, they have every right to comment on it in whatever manner they see fit,
No, they get way too personal sometimes. I mean, I hear, I mean, I'm not being a wimp about anything, but people get way too crazy. Like, I like joking about Tom King, and like his therapy couch is like his comic books, that's haha, that's funny. But then people get really crazy about it. And people do get really crazy when they're writing in letters back in the day, or stuff like that. And
it's always been that way. When Grant and I came on the X-Men, it was a shitstorm, a pure shitstorm.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Online, absolutely.
Well, I got to admit, I wasn't on it. What I was trying to do as a shop employee was combine the two sides of the store. One that was alternative, with all the Grant Morrison, Doom Patrol, and Invisibles, and so on and so forth. And then the X-Men people and, the superhero people. And here we're going to have a really happy marriage. It's like going to be like Justice League all over again, that type of stuff. And it was, I was selling superhero, like we were a store, Comic Relief, where I worked. We were a store that sold 8-Ball. We were a store that sold Optic Nerve in mass amounts of, numbers. These were the books that we pushed. If it was a Garth Ennis book and Preacher and Hitman, those were top sellers. So the Joe Casey, X-Men, we could have hits with superhero stuff like a Jim Lee Hush. But when it was you guys, when it was Peter Milligan on Ecstatics or X-Force at the time, when these type of books were coming out, when Godland was coming out, when Conan the Barbarian by Kurt Busiek was coming out, those were really, really, it was a very, very special time in comic books, mainstream. And then we still had Acme Novelty Library coming out. We still had some peep shows coming out. We still had, Louis Riel by Chester Brown or whatever the fuck he's doing at that time. We still had European comics coming in. It's a vastly different industry than it ever was at that time.
I got away with recruiting Eddie Campbell to draw a section of Uncanny X-Men 400. That ain't going to happen today.
No.
And not many people were excited about it happening then. But I'd be damned if I wasn't going to work with Eddie Campbell for 6 pages. You crazy?
So the holes in comic books that I have in my life are probably American Flag, Love and Rockets, and anything Eddie Campbell. Let's call it From Hell. Okay.
Right.
So those are the big holes in my comic reading. Have you read all those?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Well, I read Joe Casey stuff. Does that count for anything?
Well, in the context of this interaction, yes, it does. In the wider context, when you put it up against Chaikin, the Hernandez brothers, Eddie Campbell, I don't know, man.
Well, going back to the Hernandez brothers and also the Wrestling Minute, I read Whoa Nelly. So if you read that, then you've read some wrestling comics.
That's true. I have read Whoa Nelly. So that let me revise my answer. Whoa Nelly.
Did you ever work with Adam Polina? I know he was kicking around at that time for you.
I never worked with him. I just met him recently. I loved his art back in the day too. And I've seen recent stuff that he's done, comic art, and he hasn't lost a step. In fact, he's better than he's ever been.
He did a wrestling comic book called Big Daddy Danger.
That's right. I remember
that was a DC comic. I have it in a box somewhere. Let's see here. All right. I'm not missing anything as far as super chats are concerned. That's good. But we will highlight a couple of them right now. Dwayne Moose says Nick Cootie passed away a couple years back. Very underrated writer. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Joe Corrales says, yeah, Joe Staten, really great guy. I added the really. Yeah, but I agree. I don't know if he's great, but I did like his stuff. I just joke. I just recently read through all of 5 Years Later and 0 Hour. All right. Wow. I'm reading actually the Steve Lytle issues that follow the Keith Giffen comic books.
I love Steve Lytle.
Yeah, he was very good. I always felt that there's certain artists that I thought I really liked that didn't do a lot of stuff. And when Michael Golden has done more stuff than you know.
Well, anybody who's a Steve Lytle fan who doesn't know about this, he did the first, I think, 4 or 5 issues of Doom Patrol. in the late 80s before Grant Morrison came along. It was inked by Gary Martin, written by Paul Kupperberg. Great. I mean, I think that's his best stuff.
But who followed Steve Lytle on Doom Patrol?
Eric Larson, of course.
That's right. That's right.
Which was awesome. Which at the time I loved that too.
Oh yeah, I'm a big Eric Larson apologist, and for anybody that knows the history of the store, you'll understand even more. Well, I mean, geez, look at this. I usually only show this backstage, but I've got a She-Hulk, a She-Dragon, a She-Dragon statue. It's even what is that number? Number 420. Yeah, baby.
Wow, that's cool. That's very cool.
Look at that. Look at the ace. I also have like a box full of them because he left them behind in my store.
Oh my God.
He doesn't seem to care. Neither do I.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. Last bit of Neil Before Zod comes out in January. I did really like the first issue. I gotta let you know that right now.
Thank you.
There's a lot of evisceration in that book. Yay, I like that.
Yeah, you've seen the sort of cleaned up version. There's versions that were a lot more bloody and a lot more, where there was a lot more viscera, but we don't want to offend anyone, so we took steps to tone it down a little bit because it gets brutal. I mean, the first issue is brutal enough, but it gets way more brutal, darker. I mean, the series is a literally descent into hell for a lot of it. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. The theme of the series is bad things happen to bad people.
All right, awesome.
I will say this too. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's.
I will say this
panel.
for anyone watching and fans of Yule Carter. There is and you don't even know this, Yule. There is a Yule tribute that starts in, I think, issue 5. Yeah, issue 5.
What? No, I don't know anything about this.
I know. I haven't said anything. You'll see when the issue comes out.
How embarrassing! I'm so I'm already a little tipsy. From just like one beer,
Sure.
But damn, awesome. I'm definitely a supporter of Joe Casey work. Like, I bet if like Doc and I were in the same room, we could have like a pretty good battle as far as like who's like I know that when he was telling, like when he accepted the fact that like Joe Kelly's name, his story was brought up, he was being nice to Drew when he did that. I know for a fact. Because like he didn't want to be all, oh, by the way, that wasn't really Joe Casey, he didn't want to do that. So he was being like super nice. But he and I could have he's like single-minded like in certain things, and you got to read his Superman. You got to read Joe Casey's Superman. You got to read truthfully, you got to read all the Supermans that were going on during that time. And my question to you about Neil Before Zod and those Superman, so much stuff has happened before or during that time. How have you been able to pluck from that? Did you have like editorial directive? Did you go back and read it?
Did I go back and read our runs that we were?
No, not your runs, but like the stuff that happened in between, because like Zod coming back and his family life, that was more of like the Dan Jurgens stuff, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I've read all. The only thing I didn't read to research this series, I read all the post-rebirth Zod appearances, except for his Suicide Squad stuff. I don't know what that was about, but his appearances in Superman in Action, he showed up in Green Lantern, I guess Green Lantern Corps. So that you don't need to have read any of that stuff, but that all factors into where he is you read it. It's the beginning of our series. I'm a big believer in not ignoring the continuity that's laid at your doorstep, but trying to make it work for you, even if you don't agree with some of the decisions that were made. And I certainly would have done things slightly different in some of those stories. But you know, that's the beauty of these shared universe comics. You take what's there and you make it work to be able to tell your story.
Do you like working? What do you like working in more? Shared universes or your own creator own stuff? Is it a different beast?
Well, I mean, at the moment, I'm sort of into the shared universe thing because I'm deep into it in a couple of different projects, and that's mainly because, I mean, people who complain about it, you know, oh, I got to consult with this editorial office, or I got to know what's going on in this book. That's what we grew up with, you know. I mean, that was being a comic book fan. If you were into Marvel and or DC, that was part of it. That was part of it. How everything connected, how things lined up, and when they didn't, you got kind of your nose out of joint, and you wondered what the hell they thought they were doing up there in those offices. Why did it not all? I mean, it was just all part of the stew. And the thing about the Dutch book is that I'm really curious how many people remember or / took seriously or have an affinity for the Image shared universe, which is what we tie into pretty heavily in the new series. I don't know if there's any marks out there for that era of comics. I'm hoping there is. I'm hoping they remember that, you know, when Image first started, they all connected. It was all one universe, and you'd see, you know, Spawn show up in an issue of Dragon, or you'd see Shadowhawk show up in an issue of Cyberforce or whatever it was. And we're leaning into that hard.
So you're saying that Spawn is going to be an issue of Dutch?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what the premise of Dutch, anybody who read the Zero issue, it's been 30 years in real time since the events of the early 90s happened in that shared universe. And this is where we are today.
You know, Spawn was in Philadelphia recently. And since you're in the Image universe, you could be basically doing Philadelphia in Dutch also.
Fantastic. It wasn't already written yet.
Jason Sean Alexander draws Philadelphia. And I think he's doing a variant cover for you on Kneel Before Zod also.
I think he is too, yeah.
Holy cow. So what you're saying is, and you're not saying this, Dutch and Philadelphia are going to like somehow, you're going to have to buy both of them is what you're saying.
Yes, I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm shilling for Philadelphia for sure.
Might as well. I mean, you know, heck, get those numbers up. Kneel Before Zod's coming out in January. I already read the first issue. I highly recommend it. The art's solid. I can't show it anymore. You know, I just got one panel. I chose one panel, and I thought the thing that was really great here was he's looking at Kandor. His wife is talking to him. It's Ursa is his wife, like from like Superman 2, right?
Yep, pretty much.
I never knew that was really a thing. When did that actually become a thing in Superman comics? Was it like all the way back in the Kurt Swan days or like after?
No, I mean, I think they've only been married since Rebirth, as far as I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even remember. I did like that I think it was Venditti on Green Lantern Corps that had Zod in it.
Yep.
Those were really fantastic issues. I did enjoy those a lot.
Yeah, those were good.
And those are the last ones I read up until this one. And although there were like elements of it that I already knew, you know, like I didn't realize I knew it. And you don't really stick with it too long, so it really doesn't matter. But I thought it was very powerful nonetheless. And this is a really good first issue. I recommend anybody pick this up.
I think first issues are very important. They have to accomplish a lot, and we put a lot of effort in this one. We should tell people it's 28 pages of story as well. It's kind of like not quite double sized, but oversized.
Well, we know how DC goes about their pricing. So
Yeah, well.
thank you for extra pages.
Yeah, we try to get them money's worth.
Since you brought this up, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I did clip it nonetheless. You talked about first issues being important, and this week on X, again, I'm not going to dead name them anymore. On X, Ron Mars, who hasn't blocked me, actually had something that I think pertains to this, where he said, just read a #1 issue of a superhero comic, and boy, I think we need to chat about what a #1 issue should be. Excite me. Give me a reason to care. Dazzle me visually. Make me want to come back for issue 2. Everybody standing around talking is not that. Do you notice a lot of that in comics these days?
Well, I don't read a lot of comics, like new comics, but I think the #1 issues I've read recently have generally delivered.
So you read Big Game by Mark Miller, I'm assuming?
Big Game was great.
Yeah.
Big fan of Big Game.
Do you like Mark Russell? I think his books are very, very good also.
He's done some good stuff. Yeah.
He's doing one called Rumpus Room right now, and it's a hoot.
Oh wow.
So do you think that there is a lot of standing around talking in comics? I have noticed that there's a lot of eating and kitchen scenes. Now, there used to be athletic competition that allowed us to see, the Danger Room scene, the X-Men playing basketball, the Avengers training, stuff like that. But in those scenes, we get the story and who those characters are, and we get to see their powers being exhibited, even though they might not later on in the book. Do you think this happens a little too much in comics where people are standing around talking?
Probably. I mean, I think that, look, if I eventually,
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No. If I were going to just sort of sit here and muse about the state of comic book writing, especially maybe newer writers, comics is a medium, and I did it too, where you tend to learn on the job. You get the job at a point where you can do the job. You can fulfill your obligations, but you maybe still have a long way to go when it comes to craft and taste, and just getting it right. And I know that my early comics were kind of all over the place too, because I was learning on the job. My saving grace was I was learning in a way that maybe still adhered to some of the traditions that I valued in comics, which is more action based, not a lot of standing around if you could help it. So I think that it happens, but I think that's just possibly certain writers still finding their balance, still finding out what works best in a comic, what doesn't work best. I mean, a superhero comic, I assume we're talking about that genre.
Always, for the most part. I mean, I'm never against non-superhero comics, but let's be real, unless I have Dan Clowes on the show, I shouldn't be talking about Monica.
Yeah, right. I think that with superhero comics specifically, the challenge is to have real, with action scenes, they have to have some sort of meaning and resonance. And that is not an easy thing to do. I mean, it seems simple on the surface, but to imbue an action scene or action sequence with real gravitas, to be able to put across what it means for the characters involved, what the stakes are. It's not just mindless, shoot 'em up or punch ups, that it actually has some sort of dramatic metaphorical meaning within the context of the story. That's way easier said than done, way easier said than done. And you have to kind of do it and put some not so resonant work out there and see it out there and see the reaction to it to do better next time. You know, I think the only gripe that might be legitimate on a reader's part is if they feel like somebody's working out their career on their $3.99. You know,
so money more than character, even, or character more than money, maybe.
Well, no, I think it's character more than money.
Yeah.
I think
because people are really, for the most part, willing to spend a lot of money for good stuff within their character. I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I was joking about the Matt Wagner earlier, and someone said something about it. And we all spend money on what we want.
That's right.
And hopefully, it feels like a deal for you, but it doesn't have to. You can support. There's nothing wrong with that. Dwayne Moose says, Joe Casey, Steve Rude, X-Men, Children of the Atom. Steve Rude didn't finish Children of the Atom with him.
No,
did he?
They fired him.
They fired him for what? Not getting it done?
Yeah, he was a little slow. He was a little slow.
Who finished that? I can't remember.
Well, let's see. The fourth issue. I know this. Well, it's interesting. The fourth issue was mostly Paul Smith, which was I felt a suitable replacement, but he didn't even. But even Paul Smith fucked off before he finished the whole issue. Then the last two issues were drawn by a very new to the business Esad Ribic.
Ooh.
But it did not look
Vertigo or post Vertigo?
Well, this would be 99, 2000. So that sounds
maybe
like
post.
Post. Well, I don't know what the first stuff Esad did. I'd never heard of him before that.
Yeah, he's good.
He's fantastic, but he was not the Esad we all know and love now.
Poor Children of the Atom. Boy, those first couple, those really did look good, though.
They really did. I mean, and Steve Rude was the first artist I'd worked with that I actually was a fan of. It was a hero of mine because I'd made a conscious choice to not work with guys. I mean, I got the opportunity a couple times, but for the most part, I would work with guys that were sort of at my station or of my generation, as opposed to but having said that, I wouldn't have traded working with Steve for the world. I worked with John Buscema on one issue of Deathlock, which how random that was, but it was still John Buscema. I was honored, but those were few and far between.
I was talking with customers about these stealth cancellations that Marvel does, especially Marvel does. And even recently, Avengers Incorporated, it's like, the 5th issue is the last issue.
Yeah.
You got that when, Red Goblin, done. 10 issues, done. It's a pretty good life for a comic book. I was a real big fan of Breach when it was coming out from DC.
Yeah.
And you had a comic that was like that. I think like the Marvel 2 or the Mech ones is what I mean.
Well, that was Deathlock, was part of that. It's called M-Tech.
Yeah, those were supposed to go like 12 issues, if I remember correctly. And they only went 9.
Well, they were just monthly series. I think I got 11 issues out of Deathlock.
Oh, it was 11. Okay. Yeah, but there was a double-sized, if I remember correctly, also. It's so much text. I think it's a lot of text. It's pretty I think I feel like it's just memories, but anyway, that's what happens in comics. You're like, you expect it to keep going and it's like it's over, right?
I was telling somebody, maybe it was Perch, one of the times he and I talked, where Deathlock was the first #1 issue of a Marvel monthly series that I wrote. Everything else I'd taken over on Cable, took over on Incredible Hulk, and those were all in mid, run. I took over Cable 51 and Hulk 467 or 468 or something like that. But this was a #1 issue of a Marvel comic. I couldn't believe it. Oh, holy shit, this is a rarity. When does this happen?
All the time now.
Yeah, I know.
It happens all the time now. I remember a letter. I loved letter columns. You gotta have letter columns in comics. Like seriously. There was somebody that was bitching about your Hulk because you had like the circus dudes, you know?
Yeah, the Circus of Crime. Yeah, I know
The
this.
Circus of Crime. I think
I know
Princess
this, right.
Python, like
All
kind of
right,
like
let me clarify this. Let me clarify this. All right, for anyone who gives a goddamn after 22 years.
people did.
Okay. So my version of the snake that Princess Python hangs around with was the John Buscema snake from the Avengers Yellow Jacket wedding issue, which he drew it like a goddamn oak tree trunk. You know, huge giant snake. So I put it in the comic. I'm like, okay, the Hulk's kind of fucked up because he's still grieving over his wife's death, and that a tree trunk snake could maybe take him out, to cut off his oxygen, take him out. The artist, who is a fantastic artist, I don't want to just shame
Can
him
I
by.
say it? I don't want
Sure.
to. I mean, we should throw him under the bus. I mean, we were just doing Assad Ribic, right?
Well, I wasn't throwing Assad under the bus. He was new then.
I love Javier Polito. He's great.
It wasn't Javier.
Oh, wait, it wasn't? It was Ed McGuinness?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Ed McGuinness drew the equivalent of a garter snake. So it was a garter snake choking the Hulk and choking him out, which of course readers rightly so were outraged.
Oh, please.
Like, what the hell? What is this garter snake be able to choke out the Hulk? And I agreed with them. But what are you going to do?
What was that like following Peter David? This will be my last big question for you. You know, Peter David, he did like 10 years.
It was, I mean, look, I had been in the business at that point about less than a year when I got that gig. So I was happy to have the gig, and I knew the legacy. And at the time, it was, I mean, it was always meant to be sort of an interim run between Peter David and what was going to eventually be the follow-up. At the time I got the gig, we didn't know that the book would end and then relaunch with #1. But that's, in fact, what happened. So at least I got the distinction of writing the last issue of Incredible Hulk. And I take great pride in that.
And last issues are usually pretty expensive ultimately. Like, you look at all the issues that surround them and you're like, they're $3, $4, $5, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But once you start like climbing towards the last issues, books like Magnus Robot Fighter that Keith Giffen wrote are not easy to find because print runs are so small. And they're very important to the collector that wants every single one of them. So what number was that? Do you remember?
The last issue of Incredible Hulk was 474. And I was so psyched about it. I put myself in the comic. The first page is me in my old apartment in Silver Lake getting the call from the editor saying, "Hey, I'm going to write the last issue of Incredible Hulk. What do you think?" And you see me on the phone saying, "I can't do it. I can't do it." And then we go into the story.
I think the omnibus for that might be coming out real soon if it hasn't already.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're expecting big royalties on that, right?
Oh yeah, I think I'm rolling in. I'm going to retire.
You got to share them with Peter David, hopefully.
I think I have to share them with Peter and Byrne. So that's pretty good. That's good company to be in.
Well, it's good company, but I bet they're getting a bigger pot. Maybe not. What do I know?
Hey, let them take it. Did they create Ben 10? I don't think so.
Oh, all right. Very good. Yeah,
man. There's a mic drop for you right there, you.
That was. Thank you, Joe, for joining us here in the chat. I don't think there's any new comments, so that's great. We've got the 4th and 5th issue, which will be December and January of Junior Baker.
Yep.
We've got Neil Before Zod starting in February or January. And in February, we've got Dutch #1 coming out.
That's right.
Maybe like sometime in the middle of Zod, we might be able to have you in the store.
Yeah, that'd be great. And in April, another big launch, big, huge launch.
Company?
Well, let's just say it's gonna spin out of the Dutch series. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, really? All right. So Dutch is limited. Is that what
Yeah.
it's going to be? Also, yeah.
Three issues. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. I'm super
Big stuff,
excited.
big stuff coming.
All right. Excellent. So yeah, people that like superhero comics, thoughtful comics, intelligent comics, smarter than me comics, should definitely buy Joe Casey comics. And I'm so happy that you're going to be working at some mainstream stuff also, along with your independent stuff. So way to go.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. And congrats. I know next week is your 200th show.
It is. I didn't apologize up front about my Thinking Critical appearance because I knew you were there. And I was a little salty when I was talking about people saying that they were just like, fuck what Mark Millar has to say, and stuff like that. But I wasn't really saying it negatively about them. Hey man, you got to do what you got to do to make a buck. You know what I mean? Chase that green, right?
That's right. It's all about the dollars.
All right. Everybody, see you next week. And Joe, stick around.